afternoon to everyone. We are very happy to be here today. We have been looking forward to visit our comrades here. Our being here is to see this country, which has done something unusual, to liberate Africans here.
You just watched President Jacob Zuma joyful dance to the rhythm of African drums echoing under the bright Ouagadougou sun. Former South African President Jacob Zuma moved in step with Burkinabe dancers, his laughter joining the cheers of the people who gathered to welcome him. The energy is electric, a mix of joy, pride, and symbolism. A son of Africa has come home to salute another who dared to defy the odds. Then Zuma takes the microphone, smiling warmly, and says, "We are very happy to be here today. Our being here is to see this country, which has done something unusual, to liberate Africans here. That is why we are here. We are glad to be in a country that has taken very correct decisions." You have just heard Jacob Zuma perform a happy traditional dance and deliver his powerful message, a message that many believe is the most significant endorsement yet of Captain Ibrahim Traore's bold leadership. When Zuma says Burkina Faso has done something that no other African country dared to do, those are not casual words. They are the words of a revolutionary who once stood up to the apartheid regime, a man who knows what it means to resist global pressure and still stand tall. His statement is a bombshell, a declaration that the fire of Pan-African liberation, once thought to be dying, is alive and blazing again in the heart of Burkina Faso. Zuma's arrival in Ouagadougou on October 29, 2025, was not a routine visit. It was history in motion, welcomed warmly by Burkina Faso's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré. The former South African president came as part of the Conference of Afro-Descendants, an event that drew nearly 70 prominent Africans from the diaspora, scholars, and leaders from across the world. It was organized under the guidance of Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao, the former African Union ambassador to the United States, and a fearless voice for African unity. She led this diverse delegation of Afro-descendants to Burkina Faso at the invitation of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a leader many are now calling Africa's new Sankara. We'll have a full video coming soon on that historic conference and Dr. Arikana's bold message to the world. But today's story focuses on the moment Jacob Zuma stood before the Burkinabe people and spoke words that could echo across the continent. Burkina Faso has done something exceptional, Zuma declared. Something that other countries have not been able to do. And with that, he joined a growing list of African freedom fighters, intellectuals, and revolutionaries who see in Traoré's leadership not just a local transformation, but the rebirth of African dignity. Zuma's statement was simple, yet powerful. It wasn't wrapped in diplomatic language or vague praise. It was direct. He was acknowledging what millions across the continent already feel, that Burkina Faso's defiance against neo-colonial control has become a symbol of what a free and self-reliant Africa could look like. For a man like Jacob Zuma, who lived through apartheid, spent years imprisoned, and later led a nation that remains a cornerstone of African liberation history, this visit wasn't just ceremonial, it was deeply personal. It was as if the struggle baton of the South African anti-apartheid movement had been passed to the young Burkinabe leader, who now faces his own modern-day empire, one made not of chains and whips, but of debt, propaganda, and military intimidation. In African tradition, elders often say, when an old tree bends toward a young one, it is to pass on its shade. That is exactly what happened in Ouagadougou. Zuma, the elder statesman, came to bless and strengthen the new generation of revolutionaries rising under Traoré. Zuma's message struck a nerve across the continent, because deep down, Africans know the truth, that many of their leaders have grown too comfortable under the shadow of foreign influence. Zuma even hinted at this when he said, "Some of our applicants here could not understand the real freedom on the continent." In those few words, he exposed a painful reality, that not all African governments are free, even when their flags wave proudly in the wind. Zuma's arrival, full of song, joy, and defiance, is more than a symbolic visit. It's a declaration that a new Pan-African movement is solidifying. But let's pause for a moment to understand the deeper meaning behind this. Jacob Zuma, once vilified by Western media and political elites, has always been a complex figure. Yet his commitment to Pan-Africanism and economic freedom remains unshaken. He has long argued that Africa must reclaim control of its natural resources and reject external manipulation disguised as aid or partnership. So when he stands beside Traoré and praises Burkina Faso's bold choices, it's not just about Burkina, it's about the soul of Africa itself. Zuma's visit comes at a time when the continent faces a crossroads. Nations like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, the alliance of Sahel states, have expelled foreign troops, reclaimed their sovereignty, and begun charting a new independent course. Meanwhile, other nations remain tied to colonial-era agreements that keep them dependent and politically restrained. Zuma's words, "Burkina Faso has done what others could not," ring like a challenge to those leaders still afraid to break free. It's as if he's saying, "Look at this young man, this soldier who refused to bow. If he can do it, why can't you?" And that's why this moment feels revolutionary. Because it's not just about a visit, it's about a movement, a bridge between the liberation struggles of the past and the economic revolutions of the present. Between South Africa's long walk to freedom and Burkina Faso's determined march towards sovereignty. In Ouagadougou, Zuma's presence carried the spirit of Africa's elders, the voices of Mandela, Nkrumah, Lumumba, Sankara, echoing through time to remind a new generation that freedom must always be defended. When he danced with the people, it wasn't just celebration, it was symbolism, a gesture that said, "We are still one people, we still have one dream." The timing of Zuma's visit also aligns with the arrival of dozens of Afro-descendants and African Americans from across the diaspora. Many of them see in Traoré's Burkina Faso a homecoming, a place where Africans of all origins can reconnect with the motherland's new spirit of resistance and pride. The Conference of Afro-Descendants brought together Pan-Africanists from the Caribbean, the United States, Latin America, and Europe, all drawn to the same message: Africa is rising again. As Dr. Arikana said upon arrival, "We did not come as visitors, we came as returning sons and daughters of Africa." Her words mirror Zuma's, both calling for unity, both recognizing Burkina Faso's symbolic leadership in the continental awakening. And if you're watching this, you'll want to stay tuned for our next special video where we cover that entire conference, because it might just be one of the most important Pan-African gatherings in modern history. Back to Zuma's moment, when he declared that Burkina Faso has done something exceptional. It reminded many of the 1980s when Thomas Sankara's voice thundered across Africa. Sankara once said, "You cannot carry out fundamental change without a certain amount of madness." Today, Traoré carries that same energy, a courageous defiance wrapped in patriotism and purpose. And hearing Jacob Zuma, one of the veterans of Africa's liberation, acknowledge that effort publicly, that is a turning point. Even more significant is the timing. While Western leaders criticize Burkina Faso's alignment with the Sahel alliance, and while media outlets attempt to paint Traoré as a dictator or militant, Zuma's words serve as a powerful counter-narrative. They tell Africans, "Do not be fooled. This young leader is doing what must be done." African elders say, "A single tree cannot make a forest." What Zuma's visit proves is that the forest is growing. From the south to the north, from Johannesburg to Ouagadougou, from diaspora cities to African villages, a collective consciousness is awakening, one that refuses to be enslaved again by systems of economic and political control. Zuma's endorsement also adds legitimacy to Traoré's government on the global stage. It shows that respected African voices, with decades of political experience, recognize the sincerity of Burkina Faso's struggle. This is not isolationism, it's independence. Not rebellion, but rebirth. And perhaps, beyond the politics, there was something deeply emotional about this visit. Watching Zuma dance with the Burkinabe people, you could see an old warrior rediscovering his youth, the spirit that once fueled Africa's liberation movements.